Hi everyone, welcome to another IT Wildcard episode. So in this episode of Random IT Reflections, I'm going to revisit something that I've talked about before on the channel, and long-term viewers, friends of the channel may be already aware of, and that's the Stack Overflow Developer Survey. Also in this video I'm going to be talking a little bit about the website Exercism as well, and some stats I've been playing around with from that site that I thought would complement what I'm talking about here. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this developer survey. I always look forward to it coming out. So this video is being recorded at the end of March of 2023. It was going to go out in April, and by the time the video goes out I'll include all the various links to things I'm going to be chatting about in here in this video, and also links to, when I get onto the spreadsheets, I'll include links on my GitHub page, my GitHub repositories, to the spreadsheets I'm using here, so you can peruse the data yourself. So yeah, every year they release this survey. It starts in May, so we're 2 months away from the start of the 2024 survey, and the results get released around sort of July, I think, of the same year. So July 2024 is when I start looking for it. So what I'll do, sometime July, August of 2024, I'll do a follow-up video which shows my spreadsheets updated with the 2024 data, and we see how it's moved on. So anyway, so this is where I'm coming from. There are other surveys of popular languages out there, and I have looked at them, but this is always my go-to one, and you'll see why in a moment. There's a couple of pieces of this one. The nice thing about this is there's lots of stuff in here for everybody in the survey. I'm just focusing on, the technology section, but there's a whole load of other things you can look at as well in here. So this is a really, really small piece of the survey that I'm looking at compared to what you can look at. But if you have a career in development, or just interested in programming languages generally, or coding, it's well worth going through this survey at least one time and seeing whether it enlightens you. I hope it will, because it's enlightened me over the years. So let's get on to the spreadsheets, which is what I'm going to be actually talking about. So spreadsheets are awesome episode because I love spreadsheets. So what I've tended to do over the years is this started life, funnily enough, on pen and paper. So I have this black book of mine, which is just, I don't use it very often actually. I keep it for special stuff, and it's in the main sort of living room, family room of the house, and it contains all sorts of bits and pieces, like notes about closure, funnily enough, and just random lists and various other things as well. And so in there were the formative years of me first getting interested in this survey, and laying out very much like a spreadsheet. And then of course, that needs to be in a spreadsheet, so it's now in a spreadsheet. And the bit that I did in pen and paper, I'm going to show you in a moment, and that sort of inspired me to the second half of this. The first 4 bits are what I leveraged mainly as a result of it being in Excel. So this data all comes from the original site. I didn't scrape it using Python scripts. I went a bit old school, and literally my go-to data munging, data durdling, that sort of preliminary thing you do when you don't have a massive amount of data but you want to just kick the tires on it, is to grab a table, put it into Word just to do a bit of cleaning up, and then copying it from Word into Excel. I normally find as a step it's good to put it into Word first, because it doesn't always cleanly go from web tables into spreadsheets. At least that's what I found. Not always. Sometimes you can get lucky, but I often just put it into Word as a interim step and then go over. Obviously, if I'm dealing with larger amounts of data, then I'd find a more ingenious way of doing it. But with small amounts of data, it's quicker for me to do that than try and write a program to do stuff like that. Plus, some sites, I'm pretty selective about. I very rarely actually, to be honest with you, scrape sites. I mainly try and find if there's an API for the site and use that, obviously, or if there's data just on the site available to be downloaded as a CSV. Like, was it Best Ever Albums is a case in point on that. As a having an account on there. Once you have an account, you can actually download CSVs of different years. So with this was a case where I did just copy paste the data from the site. So what I've done for this section is I've just got the top 25, and I started in 2017 and I've gone through to 2023. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, because funnily enough it's a long time since I've looked to older data around this time and before, but I'm not sure if it went back before then in time. But there was a data reason why I'd settled on starting on 2017 if it existed before then, and it's to do with the ability to have a top 25. What's happened since then is it's been extended, and you'll see that in the later data. There's a bit of a rhyme there. The later data, and but for the purposes of this and the pivot table, I lock into the top 25. That's top 25 top paying programming languages and the top 25 most popular. So that's my sort of raw starting point data for my pivot tables. And then we'll see how some of that data is extended a bit in later years for this sort of more manual side of the spreadsheet. So then all I've simply done, kept it very simple, is dragged in the ranking and the language, kept the year out for the moment. You can obviously bring that in. If you do, depending on where you put it in here, it's going to make the table obviously a lot larger and different shapes. But for the purposes of this video, I've chosen this form. I actually took the year out. And then all I did, once I got languages and rank as rows, I then collapsed the table, because that's what it would be expanded, and dragged in the ranking 4 times and altered them all. So one is the count of the ranking, one is the minimum of the ranking, one is the maximum of the ranking, and the average, and you do that by just going into the field things in here. And then for this last one, in addition to going into the value field, I also went into the number format and changed it to this, just for consistency. So if we do this, what's interesting is, and this is the bit I'm most fascinated by in all of this, is what languages from 2017 to now, or the last time the survey was done, which is 2023, and then when I do this video again, 2024, have appeared as many times as they physically can. So it would be, in the current time frame, it would be 7 times. And that's the list, and this is for top paying programs. And of course, if I wanted to, I don't think I decided to keep it here. I could have also grabbed the value amounts in there. I think I have a different spreadsheet actually, which has, I tried to do some sort of metric where I did, the top paying and the most popular, and work out an overall ranking from that. But I don't know if I had too much success. But anyway, so I've just gone back to keeping it simple. Relatively simple. So upshot of this is, if you look at these, so Python, Rust, Ruby, Go, Scala, Swift, Objective-C, And all of those, they're all the ones that have appeared on the chart in the top 25. Okay, top 25 for every year. And out of that, the one which has the lowest average, which is then, because it runs, number 1 is the highest ranking, and then number 25 the lowest. It's Ruby, And also what is interesting, and I only added this the other day, initially I just had count and average, is the minimum and the maximum. So, it's interesting to see for that average, like what is it operating within. So it's been on the chart. So the minimum it's ever been, that's, again, it's sort of reversed here just because of the terminology that's used. Because, the Excel doesn't know the ranking. So, this is obviously 4 is actually the highest position, and then 10 is the lowest. So highest position, and I could, obviously, I suppose, I could rename these, I suppose. Just haven't got around to it yet. And, so between, 4 and 10, interestingly enough, if we look at the one that's had the highest position in those 7 years, Rust has been higher, as has Scala and Go. But in terms of the sort of spread, the average, they've fared slightly worse, either because there's other numbers in here for, in the instance of Go between 3 and 10, which have biased it a little bit more towards higher, move the ranking, the average ranking slightly. But you can sort of now see, so we've got, just looking at this, just eyeballing it, without attempting to sort it, you can see, we've got Ruby, followed by Scala, and then Go. And then it's a bit easier to see as we go to the other ones. So we've then got Rust, Objective-C, and then Swift, and then Python. And also here, I can, come in here, which is interesting, and set it to multi-select, and then deselect these. So at the moment, this is top 25. What if I just said, what does the top 10 look like? And we get that. Now we've just got 3 languages that have consistently made the top 10 over the same time period. So it's cool to play around with. And like I said, I'll put it on GitHub. So, if you like to play around with data, there you go. Keys of the kingdom. So if we move on to the top 25, so this is the top paying, most popular, we get a slightly bigger list. Again, same 7 years. Top 25. Interesting. So there's much more here on this list. But look at JavaScript. Minimum 1, maximum 1, average of 1. And that's the most popular. And then again, just eyeballing this, what else do we see? So, oh look, there's SQL. Sort of pretty high up the ranking. Highest position on the charts have been is 2, lowest to 4. And then just, again, scanning down, what else jumps out as Python. Again, this is most popular. What have we got at 5? So, Java. Anything with an average of 6? No. So I don't think I see anything. 7, C#. And then as we move up, we've got things like PHP, C++, C, and then further down in the average, look, we've got what here, Ruby and Go, Swift, and then VBA. Oh, I missed out R, actually, R before VBA. Again, let's have a look at this. I'm really enjoying this. Hang on, let me just do that. Remember to click this on first. It's funny, it doesn't always lock it with this, if you've ever played around with this. I love messing around with slices as well. And you can, I probably, can you, I don't know if you can move these now. Maybe not. Used to be able to extend these. So now this is what we get, because we're only doing top 10 now. But again, the obviously the order's not going to change, but it just focusing on that. So we're now down to what, 6. So Java, SQL, Python, JavaScript, SQL, Python, Java, C#, C++. Pretty cool, I think. Data is awesome. Okay, so let's move on to the bit that, look at this colour. This is my favourite part. Now this has all been done, manually, okay. Full disclosure, didn't do anything clever here. I didn't want to spend weeks trying to take the raw data and collate it. You could, there we go. So this actually does contain the additional stats. I thought it did. So yeah, there's the wage value and the percentage popularity as well in here. So yeah, it's got everything. You can have fun with this. So now we start to see like a more, what would you call it? Like you can see across the years here. So how is this sort of, how have I attempted to reflect this with more of a colourful thing? And let's break it down. I don't have a specific key, but you should be able to work out, you can just work out this, how this hangs together by, the way I'm using the colouring here. So first thing you might notice, and it's a bit difficult to see maybe on the screen, but if you look at this in real life, you can sort of see it easier. And maybe at some point I might want to change the colours slightly. It looks really good on my laptop actually, but maybe not so good on this screen. I'm trying to tell actually. So what I decided to do is anything in the top 25, so anything in a shade of green has been in the top 25 for all of the years. And this again is the top paying charts. So you can see, it's interesting, isn't it? Like Closure did this weird thing. That's why it's not in the list. Was it 2020? So I started looking, maybe I did start around here, because I remember when I first started it. Yeah, so I reckon I probably started doing this around 2019, because I remember the first year I started doing this, Closure was doing really well, and then suddenly just disappears. It's not on the list anymore. It just goes away. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. And then it comes back. So yeah, so anything in green is, equates to those pivot tables if you're looking at the top 25 results. If you've got it selected that way. And so it gives you a better representation if you like to look at data this way, where everything was year on year, year by year. It's a bit easier to spot when they're side by side, and again I might get around to changing the colour coding on this maybe for some screens. You can see that the lighter, so the lighter green, so the darker green is the top 10, the lighter green is the top 25. But it's summaried over here anyway, and it's reflected here as well. I don't know, again, on your screens how clear you can see this. Again, it works for me, but it's not always the same. this sort of grey blue colour, and on some screens it might look more of a light blue, on others it might look more of a sort of grey, like it does on the screen I'm looking at in a moment. These, and this is why there's nothing in the first year. These are all the programs that were fresh on the top 25 each year. So here, for instance, in 2018, OCaml, Bash Stroke, Shell, Julia, HTML, CSS hadn't been on the charts. Now with some of these, it gets a little bit confusing, and you have to be a bit careful when you're analysing these, because you can see some things got aggregated, and that's always going to be a problem each year when maybe they aggregate some things. So HTML, CSS got aggregated, but because they were always already mentioned here, I didn't recolor code them. Same with Bash stroke Shell. That got, initially it wasn't, well, it wouldn't have been, so it wouldn't be marked here anyway, but yeah, so, and it wasn't on this list anywhere. Maybe it wasn't even included. No one decided to answer that. You just don't know. So yeah, again, that got extended to include PowerShell. Until at this point, it's just all shells. So yeah, again, data categories change over time, and you have to try and adjust to them as best you can. So it's interesting. I like this because you go, okay, what went into number 10 with a bullet? OCaml in 2018, WebAssembly in 2019, nothing in 2020 that hadn't been on the charts before, Lisp 2021, and then nothing really here, and then Zig in Zig here. Now, of course, that should be the case. I just suddenly thought, well, anything double up, so I don't think so. Okay, we've got things like COBOL coming in 2020. Now you can see this is what I was talking about. The charts got extended for the last 3 years. I've included them down here, but I just chosen not to color code them at the moment because it started off with the top 25. Now over here, it's an easy summary. So what I did was I then said, okay, what programming languages were in the top 10 for the last 7 years for the top paying? That's Ruby, Scala, Go. Like that. So, and that's, that's just literally, as you can probably see, what I did here is, the order here is not necessarily the order of popularity, or don't assume it is. It's just the order that I happen to put it in. I think in this instance, I don't know if it is Ruby, Scala, Go. Yeah, it actually, I know, but don't immediately assume that that is necessarily the case with this. I think for this one it might well be that's also the order within the sort of average popularity. Then top 15, if you do the similar thing for the top 15 in terms of the sort of top paying, then Go gets added in. In fact, I think what I did, I was just lucky here. I based it on, did I base it on? I think initially I sort of based it on the positioning here and then sort of expanded out from there. I think that's what I did. So I just kept adding, and it's just lucky it came out the same as I think the average order. Anyway, I've digressed. So then in terms of the top 15, you end up adding Rust because that's appeared in the top 15, but not the top 10 in terms of the last 7 years. And then we get objective C, and then so top 20, and then for the top 25 we get all of them. So it does look like I was reordering these at some point on there. So yeah, maybe for this one it does reflect that. Then what I did was I just did this little thing here where I was curious about the stuff that was new to the top 25 in 2023. You can see I've also added in some date release data, which is outside of the data from the website as well, just for my own curiosity. So yeah, these were all the ones that popped in 2023. And then what I did was, if you take both the top paying and the second list we'll come on to, which is the most popular, what programming languages appear on both for the top 25, and that was these: Python, Go, Ruby and Swift. So we've got Ruby and it's better to look at this one actually, because it's also highlighted. But from this list, Ruby, Go, Swift and Python are also on the most popular list as well. Ruby, Go, Python, Swift. So we got a similar thing here, much more densely packed, and that's mainly because one, there's a lot more programming languages in the most popular category that appeared consistently, all the time in the top 25, didn't drop out, and so there's a much more green here. So we get 10 languages that have appeared over the 7 years in the, when I say 10 languages, we've got 5 languages that have appeared in the top 10 every single year for the last 7 years. And that expands up to this list, 15, this list for 20, and this list for 25. And again in here you can see marked the ones where they're also on the previous list in the top 25. And that's something I was always curious about. Like if I was trying to look at the intersection, like the and between the languages that are on the top paying and the most popular in the top 25, what would be those languages? So Python, Go, Ruby, Swift. Make of that whatever you will, but it's something that I was certainly interested in. And then also what I did was I looked, if you combine the two lists, and I didn't go all the way across because it gets quite long, but what languages are on both, when you combine the two lists together. And Ruby, Scala, Go, JavaScript, Python, SQL, C#, C++. So when you mash the top 10 from here and the top 10 from here, what do you end up with? And the same for the top 15. If you add them together, take out the duplicates, that's what you end up with. So that's the first bit over with. So that's Stack Overflow statistics. I'll include a link to the spreadsheet on, I went to say Stack Overflow on GitHub. Now the other thing I did this week, which I was quite interested in, is looking at so I have this list which I got from Wikipedia, and this, I can't remember whether I pulled this down through the API or whether I did just literally copy paste the tables into Word and then cleaned them up real quick. But if you look at the programming timeline article on Wikipedia, which I'll include a link to, this is the list as of whenever I did this. So I think, is Gleam on here? Yeah, Gleam is on here. So this must have been done early in March actually. So that's it. That's, I think, everything. I don't think I took out duplication. So you'll see some here, like year of conceptualization. So some things appear twice, or even 3, 4 times, and certainly if there's different versions of the same language. So I took that list and slimmed it down to just feature the first time it's mentioned on the list in its implemented form, as far as I could determine, but also if it's on exercism in any capacity. And I ended up with this list. So this is filtering out all the dupes and starting off at the year when the language first was available as an implementation, as far as I could determine. I also took out things like multiple, well, yeah, they went away anyway, but things like, obviously on the previous list we had a whole load of short code and other things on here, which may have things that might be related in some way to different forms of assembly language, or things like that, and they sort of went away as well. And of course there's languages that don't appear on the programming timeline list. There's thousands of languages which don't appear on that list on Wikipedia. I also kept in the predecessor list because it was just fascinating for me as well, just so the data's there. And then I proceeded to literally and systematically go through exercism. Fortunately, there was only about 63 languages on there, and just highlight everything. So basically remove anything from the original list that wasn't in exercism. So this is a list whereby 2 things: they're on the Programming Languages Timeline Wikipedia article, and they're on exercism in some form. A couple here I've sort of put a note against because they may not be in their original form, and in fact several of these, like C++, it's going to be probably whatever version they've chosen to implement on exercism. So I've bookended that. I've sort of epocate that out of existence for the moment, just for ease of stats. Okay. It was interesting that Cold Fusion was on there, which I haven't done for a long time. I learned that actually, funnily enough, I must have been really, because I learned that in, no, that's not right. Sorry. I learned that in the 2000s, now I come to think of it, when I was doing my web application development qualification with the Open University. Yeah, that was cool to mess about with, actually, Cold Fusion. I did enjoy going through different web technologies, and particularly ones which were like server-side stuff. So, stuff to do with PHP and server-side JavaScripting and other technologies as well, and MySQL. It's great fun. So so this is the list. So what I did, and of course this is only correct as of, I thought, the middle of March. So these might have changed. So I just documented the number of exercises on exercism and the number of ones that actually have concept sections. And so they tend to, by the fact they've had both, have these, which I've put here, LM, which now I can't remember what the abbreviation stands for, but it's like a learning path type thing. So they're categorized as having like a learning path on the website. They fall into that category. So what I then did is just simply took this list of languages, which I would have pulled from, this is so fresh. Can I do that? Yeah, that looks like the same list. Yeah. So I pulled this from the most popular list, and also marked up those that were from the, on both most popular and top paying, sorry, in this colour. And then also anything that appears here as its sort of complete learning module on exercism. And that's the list I ended up with. So it's pretty fascinating. So you can see, and then on here I just marked it in green as well. So you can sort of see on a timeline. Yeah. So my point is, every one of these you should be able to go onto Exercism and do exercises for. But the ones in green, you should be able to also study the concepts. So there's a explanation, a tutorial if you like, as well. And yeah, those that have both are considered to be a complete learning package on the website. So over time, I'm assuming as various individuals get to adding concepts on Exercism, then those also will become like learning paths as well. But if you haven't used Exercism already, I recommend you check it out. I'll include a link. This video is not sponsored by anybody I've mentioned in here on this video, by the way. It's just me talking about the stuff I really like to use. So yeah, free promotion for those sites. But I am using their data, so yeah, so I found that really fascinating. I only did it this week, and of course the trouble is you can guess what sort of happened as a result of doing this. I'm already diving in and going, yeah, maybe I should just go through this systematically and start doing some of the exercises on here. So yeah, I've been fiddling around with some assembly on here. Yeah, the small talk, as far as I can work out, it has an implementation of it on there called Pharaoh. I think I'm correct in that, but I may have got that wrong. But when I looked at it, it seemed to indicate that it was a sort of implementation of Smalltalk. SQL exists as SQLite on there, and then there's an Emacs implementation of Lisp on there. But Common Lisp is on there as well, although, and I haven't delved in any depth, but my understanding is this dialect of Lisp is different from original Lisp. I do have like an original Lisp training manual, so I am curious to dabble in that, and I've looked at later dialects like Clojure. Actually, I think that's the only one on here. Where that's the case. I'm trying to remember the other one as well. Scheme, maybe. And some of these, obviously, I'm exploring as a result of me doing the Learn to Code, Code to Learn thing. I've got so many different views on this. It's funny, like in terms of lenses is the word I'm probably looking for. Is I've got my Learn to Code, Code to Learn series. I'm also doing this thing in the background where I'm sort of going through the history of programming languages, which is what this was a spin-off as. And then as a result of this, I'm getting interested in just randomly doing exercises on Exercism, like trying to get into a habit of just going in there each day and just doing something on there, just to expand out my landscape, my world, if you like, my programming world. So hopefully you found this informative, and it didn't drag on too much. Yeah, it was quite difficult trying to do this because there's just so much data here, and just trying to think of all the different rabbit holes I could go down and try and avoid the temptation to do that. But yeah, if you want to play around with the data, I'll include a link in the description. Thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in a future video.